from the AAUW of Colorado State Board welcome you to your state convention, where our outstanding program coordinators have achieved in obtaining some of the best presenters in our state and in our nation, as you soon shall see. I do hope you will enjoy their programs as much as I know I will. We have 12 branches in our state, and I welcome members from these cities as well as many guests who have joined us. And if any of you who are guests are interested in learning more about our organization for the equality and equity for women, all you have to do is contact us on our state website. I get into the site easily by just Googling AAUW Colorado. So can you. We would love to tell you more about ourselves. Now, for some housekeeping rules. Mainly, there's only one, and that is if you have a question, you put that question into the QA on your computers. You do not put questions into the chat, as that is only for technical purposes. There will be a chance to ask all of the speakers questions, so use that Q&A feature. I hope you are settled in with your treats and maybe your friends and neighbors joining you for the program to go on. And so we begin. It is now my greatest pleasure to introduce a great champion to our organization, our CEO from Washington, D.C. Gloria Blackwell is her name, and she is so busy speaking to our conferences and branches these days that we are lucky to have her join us today. In her addition to her role as CEO, Gloria is also AAUW's main representative to the United Nations. In her years with the organization, she has accomplished 15 years management of AAUW's highly esteemed fellowships and grants program that has awarded, now get this number, $70 million in funding to women scholars and programs in the United States and overseas. She was the driving force behind AAUW's signature programs, which include salary negotiation training, pay initiatives with public officials across the country, worked with the Science Foundation to increase girls' interest in STEM fields. You know what STEM means: science, technology, engineering, math, and most notably has worked diligently to expand the outreach to women and girls of color. We aren't done yet. There is so much more good news. Before her work with AAUW, Ms. Blackwell was the Director of Africa Education and Fellowship Programs at the Institute of International Education and in various positions in the Peace Corps organization in Africa. She holds a master's degree in education and human development from the George Washington University, a bachelor's degree in international affairs from the Edmund A. Walsh School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University. And then she goes to Paris and studies some more at the American University in Paris. I have taken up much of your time, Gloria Blackwell, just listing all your accomplishments. We are all so proud to have you join us today and bring us news from Washington. Ms. Blackwell.
Thank you so much, Joan, for that lovely introduction. As you were reading, I was just thinking, well, who is that person? Is that me? But I guess that is me. So thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with AAUW Colorado, which is actually one of the AAUW states that I know that I've never attended the state convention in person or virtually. So I'm very happy to be here with you all. As AAUW's new Chief Executive Officer, obviously, I'm very excited in this new and expanded role. And as you mentioned, I've certainly been with AAUW for quite a number of years and am proud of all of the accomplishments that we have worked towards together. I want to thank all of you who are present for being here. I know that we do have a number of milestone anniversaries this year for AAUW Colorado, so my team wanted me to make sure that I acknowledge them. So we have the Longmont branch and the Durango branches celebrating your 75th anniversaries this year, so I'm going to give you a round of applause. The Littleton South Metro branch, 60th anniversary, and the Lakewood branch celebrating your 50th anniversary. These are all amazing accomplishments when you think about AAUW's 140-year history and how so many other organizations themselves haven't been around for 50 years, let alone having branches being around for that long. So congratulations, and also my thanks to all of you who are on our national board committees, who are members of our Legacy Circle, our major donors, and a part of our Champions program for women and girls. We are grateful for your commitment. My goal at AAUW is for us to really continue to leverage our success to expand our impact. It really is central to my leadership strategy, and we know that the past 2 years have been incredibly challenging, but AAUW has been able to move forward. We've been able to thrive. We've been able to advance our mission, and we've done so not without a small amount of tenacity and hubris at some points, but we are committed to expanding our impact and growing our audiences. It's just been incredibly impressive how everyone has really risen to the challenge during the past 2 years and really found new ways to be effective. That's both at the AAUW national office as well as in our states and branches. So I want to talk a bit about the creativity and the tenacity with which we have been moving forward to advance AAUW's mission. I want to, share my screen. Alrighty, so that we can get started. All right, and let's see, my internet tends to get a little shaky when I share my screen, so I'm going to stop my video. All right, here we go. So, I think it's important starting out talking about AAUW and sort of how resilient we have been over these past 2 years, because it's really important. And here are just a few examples. At a time when meeting face-to-face wasn't an option, AAUW hosted dozens of training and informational webinars with over 25,000 participants to date. We also launched 3 virtual pilot programs, several of which I'll talk about later. At a time when our democracy was under threat, we used our powerful voices to advocate for voting rights and fair policies to support women and girls. And at a time when women were struggling financially, we published important research highlighting how the pandemic intensified existing gender and racial inequities and fought for solutions. That's why AAUW's collective voice is so incredibly important, because education, advocacy, and research is the approach that AAUW has relied on for 140 years. But of course, we're adapting it to meet today's challenges and working harder than ever to ensure that all women are lifted up. In my first few months as CEO, I've been focused on listening, learning, and connecting, both internally and externally. You can see there's a photo of me at the foot of the Supreme Court on the first day of the confirmation hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. AAUW was there showing our support and cheering on this eminently qualified candidate. Listening, learning, and connecting internally and externally is important because I've been getting to know members, expanding AAUW's footprint in the gender and racial equity spaces, and I've also witnessed firsthand how you are also leveraging success to grow AAUW's impact. We talked a little bit about success. We have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. That elephant being in the top right-hand corner, hovering over AAUW's success, the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay? Because you also had to pivot during the pandemic to virtual programming and fundraising, and we know that it wasn't easy. But the good news is that it didn't prevent AAUW from continuing our fight for equity. When we asked states and branches to direct contributions to our Greatest Needs Fund, you answered the call, which has been terrific. It allows us to fund our mission advancing programs and initiatives that are not covered by restricted funds, like our fellowships and grants, and gives us the flexibility that we need. You also had your own virtual programs and fundraising using creativity to meet your goals. You advocated for our public policy priorities, sending nearly 70,000 letters to elected officials calling for action on paid leave, student loan forgiveness, and more. In addition, I'm proud of the way you jumped into the 5-star recognition program. It honors affiliates that align their work with AAUW strategic priorities. Since we launched the program a few years ago, nearly 100 states and branches have participated in the program because I believe that membership matters a lot and that it really is our powerful collective impact as an organization, nationally, at the state level, locally, and even globally, that sets AAUW apart from other organizations. And it has allowed us to flourish and thrive for 140 years. Listening, learning, and connecting also means that I've been making sure that AAUW is in the right rooms and conversations around gender and racial equity. From major media outlets to Capitol Hill, embassies, and the White House, I've been making the rounds to increase AAUW's visibility, and here are just a few examples. The White House Women's History Month celebration, attended by both the President and the First Lady, as in addition to members of Congress and the Presidential Cabinet. With our partners at the National Organization for Women, I participated in the Feminist State of the Union, representing AAUW's work on economic justice. These are just a few of the many events that AAUW has been a part of, where we are getting to know and reintroducing ourselves to other colleagues in the equity space. It's very, very important, and taking advantage of opportunities to share our research, our programs, and our advocacy in media outlets just across the country. In 1 week alone, just a few weeks ago, I was interviewed by the Washington Post, Forbes, Bloomberg, as well as the BBC. So increasing AAUW's visibility is a key goal. Connecting also is important because we have had opportunities to be in spaces where AAUW is known and has had an impact. For example, in March, I attended an event on Capitol Hill hosted by Speaker Pelosi honoring Billie Jean King and women athletes. Special recognition was given to Patsy Mink, and her daughter attended the event. We know that Representative Meek was the major author and sponsor of Title IX. AAUW will mark the 50th anniversary of Title IX on June 23rd. And as many of you know, AAUW was instrumental in the passage and actually laid the groundwork starting back in 1945, because it was AAUW that began to study the impact of sex discrimination on college campuses by issuing surveys to colleges and universities inquiring about the status of women on their campuses. So AAUW was at the forefront every step of the way until the passage of Title IX in 1972. Followed AAUW's successful strategy of recognizing and researching a problem, advocating for change, which continues to this day. But we have to be clear that despite all the good that's been done, we're nowhere near the finish line on Title IX. Our strategic focus areas were updated in 2020, and we affectionately refer to them now as Strategic Plan 2.0, but they remain education and training, leadership, economic security, and governance and sustainability. In 2020, we added racial equity, inclusivity, and STEM as priorities. In the area of education and training, which is we know has been a cornerstone for AAUW since our founding, we've had a particularly busy year. This current academic year, we awarded the largest amount in fellowships ever at $5 million to promising scholars and community-based programs for girls. But it just so happens that this year, in 2022, we have exceeded that amount, and we will be awarding $6 million in fellowships to 320 recipients. No one can come close to matching the ways in which AAUW has supported scholars and community-based programs for girls over the years. Last summer, we rolled out one of our new programs, a pilot program, STEM Ed for Girls, in which nearly 1,000 high school girls and their caregivers participated in an opportunity to be inspired and learn about STEM careers over the course of a 6-week program. The highlight of STEM Ed for Girls were our AAUW Fellowships and Grants alumni working in a wide range of STEM fields who inspired and connected them with engaging activities. The program was so well received that it has been funded for a second year by the Arconic Foundation as well as a new funder, the Baxter Foundation. We also piloted a second program, AAUW Money Smart, with our support from the Coca-Cola Foundation, series of financial literacy trainings that come from our work on salary negotiation to give women personal finance information to improve their economic security. We focused our outreach on women of color who face disproportionate wealth and pay gaps, and a diverse group of over 1,000 women joined us. So both of these pilot programs, as well as in another program that were incredibly well received. We are hoping to offer them again this year to leverage what we've learned, to offer better content to bigger audiences while engaging new sponsors and partners. In addition, our National Conference for College Women Student Leaders, as we all know as NCWSL, went virtual last year. It will also be virtual again this year in about a month. NCWSL welcomed over 900 students, which was our largest number ever to attend. And it was important because it gave access to those who wouldn't otherwise have had an opportunity to attend the conference in person. This year's NCWSL keynote was just announced, and its Pulitzer Prize winning author and New York Times correspondent and Howard University Knight Chair in Journalism, awardee Nicole Hannah-Jones, author of the 1619 Project, along with a variety of speakers and workshop hosts. So we're looking forward to another strong showing at NCWSL this year. In the area of economic security, we've definitely had our work cut out for us this past year, mainly because the pandemic intensified the existing inequities in our society, which meant that women and women of color particularly bore the brunt of the resulting economic fallout and job losses. And that's really why our collective voice and advocacy are so incredibly important. With your help, we lobbied for vital economic relief, including student loan forgiveness and child tax credits during the pandemic. And we also published new research that documented the devastating impact of the pandemic on American women and their families. Early last year, we published research on the impact of the pandemic on Latinas. And late last year, we did a survey of women in New York City and found that 1 in 3 women weren't earning enough to cover basic needs like rent and transportation. At the same time, we are continuing to offer individual women opportunities and tools to bolster their own economic security. That includes our piloted financial literacy training. We also expanded our salary negotiation training to serve more students and alumni of historically Black colleges and universities and minority serving institutions. and just have been offering new professional development content to help these same groups launch their careers in a very challenging labor market. All of this outreach has been with the support of funding from the Coca-Cola Foundation so that we can reach a whole new generation of leaders and activists. Of course, we're using every tool that we have to address the gender pay gap, which remains one of our most critical issues. It's another area where AAUW's collective advocacy for change is so incredibly important. We need you to continue your advocacy, from hosting events to mark Equal Pay Day, heeding our call to be 2-minute activists, or spreading the word through your own newsletters and community events. Every bit of action you take leverages our successes and grows AAUW's impact. You should know that your work matters. We know that the pay gap statistics don't seem to budge much, but we do know that the pandemic definitely has shone a light on the inequities and how they just don't seem to be moving. One of the ways that we have been moving forward, not just through advocacy and research, this year we had an Equal Pay Everyday series, excuse me, in which we did some work with employers to deepen our partnerships with them, to use them to drive change. This series of employees and managers and senior leaders was really important about having the conversation about how to make work and to talk about pay equity and fairness and what employers can do. So it's been important to also acknowledge that some good did come out of the pandemic. And it really gives us an opportunity to leverage our success and grow AAUW's impact. We want policymakers and employers to no longer have the option to ignore the fact that we desperately need systemic change and not more of just.
Hi, this is Temple.
Excuse me? Oh, and no more of just the same old, same old. In the area of leadership, it overlaps with many of our other strategic pillars, but we have done quite a bit of work with virtual programming with women leaders. I am AAUW's United Nations representative, and annually we participate in the Commission on the Status of Women. This year, the NGO Forum, in its 66th year, we provided an event highlighting ways to increase economic security and leadership for women, featuring many of our top-notch fellowship and grants alumni. You may recall in the fall, one of the highlights was our celebration of our 140th anniversary with our alumni recognition awardee, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who is the Director General of the World Trade Organization, the first African and woman to hold that role. And she told an amazing story about the importance of AAUW's funding and its transformational impact on her career. All of these opportunities can be viewed on the AAUW website or on our YouTube channel. Speaking of research as well, our higher education research expanded with our partnership with the EOS Foundation. In January, we released a report on the women's power gap at elite universities, Scaling the Ivory Tower. And it really highlighted how much work we have left to do in the area of higher education and leadership for women. The report basically told us that just 22% of the nation's elite research universities have women presidents, and that a paltry 5% are women of color. And these 130 institutions have a student body of over 4 million individuals. And so, the report certainly grabbed a lot of headlines around the country. It was featured in more than 200 media outlets that reached 112 million people. And we're still fielding calls and interviews about this report. It really is hard to believe that in 2022, the numbers continue to be this grim, since we know that women have outnumbered men in colleges and receiving degrees since the late 1970s. And Women of color represent the fastest growing segment of the college population in the US. So we wonder, why do we keep seeing the same challenges and we're not seeing the same progress in the post-graduation world? And sadly, it's not just higher ed, it's across sectors. And I know that we can do better across sectors because I see it in so much of everything that we are exposed to. For example, change can happen because the signs are around us. I see it in the unprecedented diversity of our current Congress. I see it in our vice president, who happens to be one person who is representing multiple firsts. It's what keeps me going. It keeps me getting out of bed every morning and inspiring me to work with all of you and so many others to fight for change. I just know that change can happen. And in addition to our Congress and our vice president, I also see it in the brilliant, inspiring, and obviously eminently qualified Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was featured in the opening slide, the first Black woman to serve on the Supreme Court of the U.S. I was very proud that AAUW was a part of the celebration to open up the confirmation hearings, and obviously proud that we were able to celebrate her confirmation and invited to the White House to do so. That is indeed because of the advocacy that AAUW members continue to put forth and making your voices heard, that AAUW is continuing to have a seat at the table and be invited to share our research and our advocacy and our programs. So our final pillar is on governance and sustainability. It's a key strategic pillar, and it's really vital for all that AAUW does. Because being a sustainable organization means, obviously, balancing our budget. It means ensuring that we have the right talent in place to meet our mission. And it means working to keep our technology and tools for both members and staff updated and functioning. We are certainly looking forward to the complete rollout of our new community hub, which will change the face of so many of our processes and engagement at AAUW. I certainly appreciate that it can be a challenge to adapt to new systems. So we're going to continue to offer tools and trainings and to help you learn the ins and outs of our new tools. We also have the option for our branch leaders and officers to drop by during our office hours every Thursday at 3:30 Eastern Time to meet with our Connect team. And they can answer your questions and walk you through what you need to know. And of course, when in doubt, you can always shoot an email to connect@auw.org for more information. On the governance side, we're looking to you, our members and volunteers, to help us make our community more diverse and inclusive. It is a key strategic goal. Here also, we've developed a host of online information and resources to help you learn and lead others. I encourage you to check out the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Toolkit on the AAUW website. And I hope you'll consider, if you haven't already, creating diversity officer positions within your state and branch structures. We even offer a volunteer cohort of diversity officers now, so you can network and share information with others working toward the same goal. I'll wrap up my remarks with a call to action, which we all know from our activism work is the thing that separates good intentions from real change. Because if the past couple of years have taught us anything, it's that inequity is at the root of just about everything that ails us as a nation. So let me be clear, the work that we do could not be more relevant than it is right now. And there are a number of ways you can help ensure that it stays that way. First, as I mentioned earlier, participate in our 5-star recognition program. Its very purpose is to ensure our affiliates remain aligned with national, and we're working together to advance our core mission. Second, think about some of the work that I've told you about this morning and our core mission objectives of education and training, economic security, leadership, and governance and sustainability, along with our increased emphasis on racial equity, inclusion, and STEM. How does your own work contribute to these goals? How can we help each other do more? How can you connect with your fellow affiliates to leverage your success and grow your impact? And third, please direct your donations to the Greatest Needs Fund and continue to spread the word to your affiliates. As I mentioned before, this will always be the best way to ensure that your gift makes the biggest difference for women and girls. Also, I encourage you to consider donating $50 to recognize Title IX's 50th anniversary. AAUW was a key player in fighting for that landmark law. So donating in honor of this milestone anniversary is a great way to celebrate our victory and looking forward to invest in our efforts to protect it. During our anniversary celebration for Title IX in June, we'll include recognition to all branches who supported the Title IX fundraising campaign. And finally, don't discount your individual voice as a member. Decide which issues of AAUW's public policy priorities you want to be a 2-minute activist for. Vote in the annual member election time. It's election time. Help steer important governance matters and also choose AAUW's leaders. The pandemic has exposed so much of what wasn't and isn't working. There are so many key opportunities to affect lasting change for women and families and create the world and community that we have all been striving for in our personal and professional lives. We all want fairness, equity, and an equal shot at success by eliminating the barriers in our society that hold women back. We all know it's not just a woman's issue or about fixing women, but an economic, societal, and family issue, and we can all play a role in demanding systemic change. Thank you for listening, and thank you so much for adding your voice, your time, your talent, and your resources to help generations of women and girls realize their dreams. For 140 years, AAUW has been a leader, and as we leverage our successes to grow our impact together, I'm confident that the best is yet to come in order to realize AAUW's vision of equity for all. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
Gloria, this is Susan Brody. I'm the program co-chair for Colorado. And I want to thank you for all you shared and thank you for being here. I did see a couple of questions in the Q&A, and I know you may have already seen them as well. One was, do you have an example of a branch that has done something that has directly impacted gender pay equity? Something that as a branch we could consider acting on.
Okay. So one of the ways in which branches I think have had tremendous impact is through pushing through equal pay laws at the state level. I mean, AAUW has really been instrumental because I think now at least 49 states plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico have some sort of equal pay law. And so that's really critical because not only is the legislative activity, more sort of broad reaching, but it also gets to the things that continue to perpetuate the pay gap, whether it's ensuring that their employers can no longer ask for salary history, right? Whether they're going to be required to have salary ranges when they're advertising positions, right? Offering more transparency, not retaliating against those who discuss their salary in the workplace. So those are the kinds of things that we need to get sort of enshrined, and then to make sure that we are working on the enforcement, because there's so many pay equity laws across the country that are there on the books, but you have to make sure that they're being enforced. So those are key ways.
I appreciate that, and what I hear you saying is it really is something that as an individual branch we need to go together and work together with others to have the impact. It's probably in our realm
Absolutely.
of public policy and the work we do actively advocating at the State House. So I appreciate hearing about that. The other one I see, and I'm not sure I understand it completely. Janet Knox asks, can branch leadership access the help on Tuesdays remotely?
Yes, it's Janet. It's only remote. I should have the link to put it in the chat, but you'll have to forgive me. I can make sure that you get it.
Thank
But
you.
it's all remote using our favorite technology, Zoom, because we love Zoom. And so you'll sign up for it, and whatever your particular question or concern is, make sure you'll drop that in there so that the team has an opportunity to do a little research and have the answers ready, or get more information from you. And then when it's time for the actual office hours, everyone is on Zoom and having a conversation, and that way there's more of a dialogue, and there's more of an opportunity to just have those conversations where emails back and forth can take forever, right? And returning phone calls can also be a challenge. So knowing what the question is in advance and having an opportunity to have that face to face, I think is really important as well. So you sign up, you put in your question, and then the team can actually also get a sense of what are the challenges people are having. One of the things that I have asked our advancement and membership director to do is, we have to keep stats on what are the challenges people are having, what are the questions, so that we do have some data points that will help us, that will inform the work that we're doing and help us move forward with any changes that need to happen. You can't know unless you not only ask the questions, but you take the data and analyze it.
I appreciate that. It kind of is a reminder to keep watching the AAW.org to see what else is online that you can.
Yes.
I do want to share, I don't know if we mentioned before, of course, we're recording this. And if anybody wants to see again what you shared or see the slides that you had, they will be able to do that soon on our website. So if you're feeling like, oh, gee, I want to make a note of this, you'll have a chance to look at it again. I do have a couple more questions. One asks, is there any way for a woman to check what average salaries are in a particular type of job in her geographical area? So this is kind of a data question. Do you know of data resources for pay statistics for particular jobs?
Yes, I see that it was Melinda who asked that question.
Yeah.
It's a part of the resources that we provide in our Work Smart and Start Smart training. We certainly recommend that you can check salary.com or payscale.com are recommended, because they rely on data that is not self-reported, like Glassdoor, for example. And it really allows you to go very, very deep in determining what your pay should be. So, for example, it's years of experience and education and geographical location. And it allows you, if you don't have the precise title, you can do comparisons to really get to, sort of what should the salary be. Because we know that someone earning a salary in Washington D.C. is not going to be earning for that salary is not going to be comparable in a different geographical area, and it also gives people the resources to understand that years of experience and education, all of these go into the calculation of your salary, as well as the geographic location. So PayScale and Salary.com are really great resources.
And those are government data resources, are they not? That are
it's where they pull the information.
They pull the information from that. Exactly. I noticed Don Zimmerman has another question with regard to what has happened with the equity network that was before the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. I'm wondering how that has progressed and what we're seeing with regard to that vehicle.
Okay, Donna, the Equity Network has been put on a bit of a pause over the past few months, as we have been taking the time to evaluate exactly what was hoped to be achieved by it, and had we been successful in our goals. It also was important for us to understand, the purpose of the Equity Network and how it overlapped in so many ways with the work that we were already doing, with the audiences that we were already engaged with, and how we were having some conflicting engagement with the same group of people. And so, I really decided that we really needed to make sure that we took an assessment of the Equity Network moving forward to figure out, if this was the correct vehicle in order to be able to engage with our new audiences. And also for us to do it in a more collaborative and cohesive way. So, stay tuned. You'll be hearing more about the future of the Equity Network and how we're going to be looking more at having our engagement more centralized and more collaborative, and having our departments working more closely on the audiences that we're looking at. But I will say that in terms of expanding our audiences, utilizing new methods with our, particularly during the pandemic, particularly with our virtual outreach, was very effective. But I think that one of the things that we also had to keep in mind is that starting something brand new as well that overlapped with something we were already doing needed to be funded. It also needed to have staffing, and what was the true goal about how we wanted to move forward to continue to engage with this community. So we're looking at other methods and even perhaps just a different version of the Equity Network if necessary.
I appreciate that. We were really excited about that in Colorado, and we were hoping that would be something that would really be an active program we could support. So you've got some support out here in Colorado for that.
Thank you. Thank
Decide
you
to do
very
something
much.
more with something either like it or resurrecting the actual Equity Network.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had one other question and it didn't show up. Oh, well, there is 6. I did have one question that came up. We've been talking about the membership system, and we're interested in finding out more about how the membership scheduling and people signing up and then renewing. And do you have anything to share about when we'll know more about that, or any more specifics about how that's going to operate? Our membership VPs are kind of wondering.
Well, Susan, let me tell you, I was waiting for that question.
I wondered if you were.
Because the community hub is really it has really been a challenge, and I just want to thank everyone for your patience, because as CEO I certainly did not envision that rolling out our new database system for the first time in 20 years would turn out to be such a challenge with so many pain points for staff and members. So clearly, this is not how I would have wanted it to happen. We know that there are challenges, but I definitely understand that Katrina Sunbreeze, our advancement director and membership director, and the team have really been doing an amazing job these past 2 months. And this week, for example, we did finish testing with a number of branches to make sure that we got everything right, particularly for the bulk dues renewal and payment. That whole piece that everyone's kind of waiting on pins and needles to get going. And trust me, we're waiting on pins and needles to get that going as well, because it's a key part of national and getting money in the door as well, and getting our members renewed. So Katrina just told me yesterday, that we can safely say that within 2 weeks, that particular system is going to be ready to go, and that everyone's very comfortable in acknowledging that we're right where we need to be, but there are a few more things that we need to get right.
Thanks for.
Yeah, because it's been, if you can imagine the grace that I have been asking for the AAUW national team over the past few months to deal with just the frustration that everyone has been demonstrating. And they are so, they're trying to be responsive, and they're incredibly dedicated and hardworking. And I know that, we've been trying to get the training out. We've been doing the training, you know, uh, with Zoom and using video, and they're also going to be releasing some written instructions on how to access things so that, a lot of folks just want it written down and they want it step by step. So that's going to be done as well. So please be patient, and yeah, just give the team a little bit of grace, because
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I noticed in that number 7, Gloria is even more specific about a specific issue. I'm going to go ahead and table that and not, we're getting close to the end of your time, and I really don't want to have your last few minutes be about a specific membership issue, but I promise to Donna Corvo that we'll make sure we're getting information about that, I know that this transition is one that's going to be ready to go soon. I appreciate your at least responding to it, and we will be there to see what needs to happen when the time comes.
Thank you so much.
You bet. You bet. We are pretty much here at the end of your time. I really appreciate our first time with you. We look forward to many, many opportunities to see you, and maybe in person. We're looking at an in-person state convention next year. So we're crossing our fingers that you'll be able to schedule trips out to Colorado.
Well, thank you very much, because I still don't believe I've never been to the Colorado State Convention.
I can't either. I think that's not realistic.
I've been to dozens and dozens over the past 17 years. But thank you all so much for your invitation. I'm thrilled with everything that you are doing to advance equity for women and girls. I know that AAUW as an organization has so much more to give. And I'm really excited about the prospect of working with you all collectively to make that happen, to continue to share AAUW's rich history, our story. What I find when I'm out and about representing AAUW, talking about AAUW, is that, we have a story to tell that no other organization has. And I want to make sure that that story gets out there. So with your help, I'm going to continue to do that. So thank you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your meeting, and we'll be in touch. And don't forget to send a question so we can get that question answered. Okay.
Thanks, Laura. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Joan, we're going to be ready to welcome our next presenter, who's already here and ready to go. So unless there's anything else, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll get off the screen.
All right. Oh, wow. That was great to have our Gloria Blackwell with us. So I told you that we had outstanding speakers for